My family stole my apartment deed for my brother's baby shower. They forgot one thing: I still had the keys, and a plan for payback. It began with a cake, one of those fondant monstrosities that resembles a gender reveal erupted at Jessica's location rather than a dessert. Maybe a blue ribbon, edible pearls, and small plastic shoes balanced on top as the cherry on top of horrible judgments. My mother was standing next to it, grinning as if she had just conquered generational poverty with themed pastries. I was not intended to be here. Technically, I was not even invited. I got the address from my cousin. He included the phrase, "Don't shoot the messenger," in his message. The kind of family loyalty that may get you kicked off an island. I showed up anyway, with a gift. Nothing fancy, just a vintage silver rattle engraved with the baby's initials, wrapped in blue tissue and nestled into a box I'd gone across town to get. It wasn't flashy, yet it conveyed meaning. It turns out they had something more exciting planned without me. Because just before the cupcakes and after the pastel balloon arch collapsed for the third time, my mother clinked her glass with a fork and announced she had an announcement. "Family is everything," she said, which, if you know my family, means someone is about to be humiliated. "Please smile for the cameras." She held up a gold-trimmed gaudy frame with just enough weight to convey seriousness. "Inside is a deed. This," she told me triumphantly, "is a gift from all of us, to the new parents. The apartment. It's theirs now, paid in full." Applause. My brother grinned. His girlfriend brushed away tears. My aunt screamed, "You guys are amazing." It was as if they had saved a dog rather than stolen a mortgage. I rose up, walked over and removed the frame from my mother's hands. Read the name. "This is my name." I stared at them, back at the frame, and then at my father. He leaned in like a used car salesman, offering an unexpected improvement. "You have 30 days to vacate," he said quietly. I smiled. 1 day is enough. I handed the frame back, nodded to no one in particular, and walked away. Quiet. Is there no scene? Not yet. By 5 a.m., the building manager had unlocked the front entrance. The removal staff arrived about 7 a.m. By 9:30, everything they'd taken into the apartment had vanished. The floor ripped. They paid for it. The crib. The curtains. The IKEA dresser with unequal legs is boxed. Even the Etsy wall sign that read, "Our Little Nest," was torn and ruined. I did not touch what was mine. I simply eliminated what wasn't. By 11 a.m., it no longer looked like their house. It looked like mine. At 6:41 p.m., my brother texted, "Is this a joke?" I responded, "Not yet, but tomorrow's delivery might be." The apartment was not part of the plan. Not for me. Not for them. I purchased it in 2020. Small. Quiet. 2-bedroom. Walking distance from my workplace. The kitchen has good lighting. I never wrote about it. Never invited anyone over. That was the entire objective. Then came my brother. At first it was only temporary. Just until we find something. He and his girlfriend arrived with 2 duffel bags, a yoga mat and a cat. I answered, "Sure. 1 month, maybe 2. They stayed for 19. I've never asked for rent. Not once. They offered to buy groceries occasionally. Sometimes they did. They rarely did. I did not keep track. I assumed it would be only temporary. I was mistaken. The first thing they did was add floating flooring. Not bad for a mid-range oak laminate. My brother described it as an improvement for all of us. He paid for it. I let it go. Then came the bookshelves. $160 IKEA hack. White frame. Fake gold legs. His partner shared a time-lapse video of him installing it with the remark, "Our place is coming together." I stood behind the camera. Over time their language evolved. It moved from "your apartment" to "our space." Anything from "thanks for letting us stay" to "we love this home." From "we're looking for a place" to quiet. They left their toothbrushes in my cup, their shoes by the front door, and their laundry in my washing. I never spoke a word. Then came the baby. They did not inform me directly. I found out through an Instagram story in which she was holding up a sonogram and he was flexing like he'd discovered fire. I texted my congratulations. He responded, "We should talk about making things more permanent." I didn't inquire what it meant. They never clarified. 3 weeks later my parents called. My mother asked whether I would consider donating the apartment, not all of it, only symbolically. "They're starting a family," she explained. "You're doing well." I said no. She said, "It wouldn't kill you." I hung up. Then came the family fund. It began in 2019. Quietly. $1,500 every month to help pay my parents' mortgage while Dad was in recovery. Then add $600 each month for my sister's rent. Uncle Rob's legal bills totaled $200. Mom's dentist visit cost $320. $3,000 to repair the roof. I stopped tracking after a while, but my bank did not. Over 4 years. Family account transfers. $91,200. Apartment mortgage with tax and fees. $112,000. Furniture and repairs cost $9,300. Food, utilities, and incidentals cost $6,700. Total personal investment, $219,200. Total input by anyone else. My brother's flooring cost $940. That one bookcase costs $160. A used blender presented by his girlfriend's mother. When I declined to transfer the deed, they stopped asking. They simply went ahead with it. My brother used a phony email address under my name to make a notary appointment 3 weeks before the baby shower. My father handled the logistics. My mother cooperated with the lawyer. They sent in a scanned signature from a tax form I filled out in 2018. It wasn't a particularly good forgery, but it was sufficient. The property's title was reallocated without my consent. At the baby shower, everyone acted as if they were giving me a minute to cheer, smile, and feel included. Instead, I saw my name displayed in a gilded frame like a prop. A gift from all of us, my mother explained. All of us. Clearly did not include me. The same person who purchased the unit. Who furnished it. Who kept the lights on. Who paid for the $1,280 crib from Pottery Barn, which is currently sitting triumphantly next to the cake, wrapped in a bow, as if it was the result of a collaborative effort. I did not yell as I left that night. I did not argue. I logged into my bank. I printed the complete list of transactions. I underlined everything related to that apartment. Down payments, insurance, taxes, repairs, and even the $342 I paid to fix the garbage disposal when his girlfriend threw avocado pits down it. Because TikTok says it's fine, I saved it in a folder titled, Correction, Just Facts, No Comment. By dawn, the locksmith had altered the access code, the building management reset the buzzer, and I created a list of everything in the apartment that didn't belong to me. The floor, the bookshelves, the cradle, the plaque that said, Welcome baby. Everything they brought in, posted about and labeled as theirs was displayed on the living room wall. Gone. I did not text my brother. I did not threaten legal action. I didn't bother explaining because it was what they anticipated. And that is just what I was not going to give them. They assumed I wouldn't react. That was the point. I guess I would dispute if they made it loud, dramatic, and official. But if they smiled sufficiently, clinked glasses, held up gold frames, and said things like, blessing, and from all of us, I might be able to stay quiet. Perhaps they could pull it off. They didn't pull it off. They crossed the line. 6:06 a.m. The next morning, a moving truck arrived in front of the apartment. This is not my apartment. Not theirs. Just the space they attempted to claim. The driver unloaded 64 flat-pack cardboard boxes. Each one contained the label, Start Fresh. They were clean, new, and branded in black type, with pre-marked lines for the room contents and owner. A taped envelope was found on top of the box. Inside is a printed packing. Advice and a checklist labeled, Everything You Brought. The categories were nice. Box 1 contains infant clothing. Boxes 2 to 4. Unrequested nursery decor. Box 5. Shared toothbrush, still not mine. Boxes 6 through 11, excuses, Box 12. Let's talk. Boxes 13 through 40. My silence boxes 41 through 62. Entitlement box 63. Their floor. Box 64. Dignity. You have 30 days, but I wanted to help you get started. They noticed it before noon. I know because the hallway camera captured my brother opening the door. He stepped back, as if the boxes were alive. His girlfriend was behind him, holding a mug and wearing the same robe she always wore when she sought attention. He bent down, opened the top one, and found it empty. She began crying. I viewed the video with the sound turned off. That evening, my phone vibrated. Brother. What's wrong with you? Mom. This isn't how the family behaves. Dad. You've made your point. Enough. Sister. Are you all right? Is everything really okay? I didn't respond. Not for them. Not anymore. I had already created my own spreadsheet with everything I paid for, carried, and what they took. I sent it as one PDF. Subject: apartment final numbers. At 4:17 p.m., my mother called back. I let it ring. She left a voicemail. We never intended to seize it. It was symbolic. For the baby. I've saved the audio file. It's titled symbolic.mp3. The next day my brother arrived. He pressed my buzzer 5 times. I observed him via the peephole. Hoodie, sweatpants, holding a half-folded box. I did not open. He left the box on my porch. Inside, a note. You're really going to do this? After everything? I left it until it poured. That weekend, I had the floors they installed returned, each plank, each screw, each strip of underlayment. I labeled the box technically yours. Reclaimed materials are included. Packing peanuts. He paid a receipt for $940. Note, using your own resources makes rebuilding easier. They went out in silence. No more social media, goodbye. No drama in the group chat. Just slowly disappearing. By the end of the month, I had regained control of the flat in all important ways. The scent of their candles has vanished. Their coats from the hall are gone. The baby name banner has been folded and returned. Nobody ever asked for the 64 boxes back. I'm assuming they used them. 1 month later, my mother sent me a group email. Subject: family reconciliation. It contained bullet points. Allows not to allow money to come between us. This can still result in a win for everyone. Forgiveness is a gift. Remember who helped you when you were in need. I did not respond. However, I forwarded it to myself, under a fresh subject. Line: family rebranding. Then I archived it. The apartment is quiet now. Sometimes I turn off the lights and just listen. The ghosts of their plans can still be heard echoing throughout the walls. But ghosts are quieter than humans. And easier to remove. They tried to be loud. Then they attempted to be quiet. Then they tried meek. It began with a text from my sister. Let's just reset. No drama, no receipts. Clean slate. I then received a call from my mother. There is only voicemail. I understand we've made mistakes, but you're the wiser one. You always were. Finally, my favorite communication from my father. Come to dinner. Let's talk man to man. They chose a Tuesday. I said yes. The eatery was Italian, mid-level. They expected the gloomy lighting to make everything gentler. They were wrong. I arrived second. They had already ordered a bottle of wine. 2 glasses. I did not touch mine. My mother launched first. We were under pressure. Then everything was so chaotic with the baby. Then we shouldn't have gone behind your back, but it was out of love. I let them conclude their short soliloquy. I then opened my bag. 3 objects. Quietly placed on the table. A USB. A manila folder. A single laminated sheet. My father reached for the USB. I pulled it back. You will not need that. I have already emailed it to your employers and the bank. My mother froze. I handed her the folder. Inside, a notarized termination of all co-signed accounts. A legal notice revokes power of attorney. A side letter that concludes my monthly contributions. There's no fanfare. Just documents. I looked at my sister. You are no longer covered under the insurance plan. Effective last week. She blinked again and then attempted to grin. That is okay. I'll figure it out. I nodded. You will. My brother did not show up, but I sent him his own packet via courier. Inside, a bill for property use, an itemized spreadsheet of damages, and a QR link to a Dropbox folder titled Resources to Get Started. The folder contains resume templates, cover letter samples, a mock LinkedIn profile, and a brief tutorial on how to apply for jobs after the free trip expires. That Saturday, I held a picnic. Not for family, but for ex-family, park table, plastic cups, and name tags with initial names and job titles. However, no one had work titles, so I brought extras. Each tag read, available, ask me about my abilities. My aunt cried when she saw hers. My cousin pretended that it was a joke. My mother responded, it's confronting. I stated that was the point. Then I handed out the folders. Each contains a printed copy of a job board URL, 1 fact sheet budgeting for grown-ups, and 1 sticky note. You stated that I was accountable, so I'm helping you become one as well. The following Monday, I filed a police report. Not a lawsuit, not vengeance. Simply a report of identity theft and title fraud. The officer at the desk inquired whether I wanted to press charges. I said, not yet. On Thursday, I received an email from my father's lawyer. Subject: concerns about escalation. Body: Let us not destroy the family over a few documents. We can resolve this without resorting to litigation. This isn't what your mother wants. I responded with 2 lines. You desired a life without me. Let me show you what that looks like. They stopped calling. I stopped texting. But the stillness did not imply capitulation. It indicated bewilderment. Which, frankly, was louder. Nobody spoke directly about me anymore. They'd ceased mentioning my name in communications they sent to anyone who still knew how to send screenshots. But I overheard everything. My cousin from Indiana, who mysteriously ends up on every family chain, whether she wants to or not, kept me in the loop quietly. There's no commentary, just raw statistics. FYI, she'd write, then forward the text. Sometimes there is an audio message. Sometimes there is a photograph. Like the one of my mother wearing her healing scarf while refilling books at the local library. Apparently, she got a part-time job there. She advised everyone to stay active. The true explanation was that her blood pressure medications were no longer reimbursed by insurance. My relative overheard her discussing copays behind the help desk. She also sold 2 handbags, which she referred to as investments. She now labels them non-essential joy. My father abandoned his car. Not out of concern for the environment, but due to necessity. The dealership confirmed this. My cousin's boyfriend works there. He said he looked exhausted. I'm confused about finance. He couldn't remember the model of the hybrid he was trading in. Dad currently drives a used silver sedan. When I turn left, one of my headlights always flickers. Fitting. I know his workplace has moved to a smaller space. A subordinate partner said it during a group call, which was screen filmed and released. He said something about just needing less space. He never addressed the family phone, which I stopped paying for. Or the data plan. Alternatively, you can subscribe to the calendar. My sister moved in with her boyfriend's mother. Temporarily. Temporarily has lasted 5 months. The guest room rug smells of wet dog and outdated shampoo. She keeps referring to it as temporary housing. She also shared a quote last week. Sometimes growth looks like falling apart first. Caption. Mood. Her tuition plan was one that I used to fully fund. It is now split across 3 payment methods. She missed one of them. Received an email. She forgot her login information. I called the university. Got put on hold. I cried. Hung up. I tried again the next day. She shared all of this with our cousin over coffee. My cousin called me later. Dryly. She's learning. My brother hosted the baby's first birthday celebration in their own apartment. I wasn't invited, of course, but one of their neighbors did. She shared photos on Facebook. My face was not marked because I was not present, but the inexpensive plastic tablecloths and mismatched cups were. Apparently the cupcakes came from a bargain bin. One balloon popped in the middle of a sentence. The Bluetooth speaker would not pair. No photographer, only iPhone timers. Blessed was scrawled on the napkins. Someone had crossed out the word with a pen. Nobody smiled in any of the photographs. They've begun referring to money as tight. This is what individuals say when they don't want to accept they're gone. My brother applied for a budgeting application. I know since it accidentally asked for my referral code. He'd never used it. One weekend, 34% of their costs were labeled as miscellaneous. They rebranded the previous family group chat. It's now called Support Circle. I'm not in it. But I get screenshots. The UI has not changed, still blue bubbles. Responses remain performative. Mom wrote, "Guess who made lemon bars?" No one responded. Dad forwarded an article titled, "Forgiveness adds 5 years to your life." Seen by 2 people, no hearts. My sister shared a selfie with the comment, "Growth." The background featured the same dog rug. There are no comments. Thanksgiving occurred without me. I found out after seeing a fuzzy photo in a shared album from a mutual family acquaintance. The turkey was clearly burned. The chairs did not match. One was a beach chair. They utilized someone else's phone because the music system refused to connect over Bluetooth. They printed up a gratitude list and placed it on the table. 5 blank lines. Only 2 had been filled out. One said, "Health." The other said, "Hope." The photograph had no filter. It didn't require one. My cousin in Indiana texted later. It was weird. No one brought up your name, not even once. That was the most revealing portion. Not that they missed me. They had to strive so hard not to. By the time they stopped pretending I'd return, I'd already rebuilt the floor. They were older. Loud in some spots, crooked in others. I had no idea how loudly they echoed until there was no one around to muffle the sound. So I stripped everything down, sanded, sealed, stained, new oak, matte finish, warm, Honest. I chose it not for its style, but because it made no apology. Next, I painted the walls. Soft gray. Not cold, not trendy. Just silent. The living room lost 2 seats but gained a reading corner. The kitchen offers under-cabinet lighting. The laundry closet was converted into a room. There were no witnesses to the proceedings. Nobody requested for progress photos. That made things easy. For the first time, I wasn't setting up a space for anyone else's needs. I then met her at a hardware store, of course. She was debating about grout color with someone who obviously didn't care. I told a joke. She did not laugh. She corrected the punchline. Better than mine. We departed with the incorrect grout but swapped numbers. Our first date consisted of takeout on my newly laid floor. She brought her own fork. She said she doesn't eat from plastic. I respected that. She did not inquire about my relatives. Not once. Not until month 4. And when she did, it was not a trap, but rather an inquiry. I told her that I had been quiet quitting my relatives. She inquired, "Did they notice?" I replied, "They're still performing the loss." I just stopped clapping. She did not press, only nodded. Then I moved the discussion to paint primers. We built slowly. By month 6, she had her own drawer. By 8, her toothbrush was still there. As did the shampoo. As did the voice. By month 10, we were engaged. By 11 we were anticipating. She compared it to a weather forecast. Calm. Clear. Inevitable. I did not cry. But I sat on the kitchen floor for the next 20 minutes, holding the dish she used every morning. It felt heavier. I did not tell my family. There wasn't a situation that required it. There is no announcement to ruin it. There are no seats to be left empty. They discovered it from someone else. My aunt sent me a text. Congratulations, I guess. There is no follow-up, no address. There's no gift. Perfect. They didn't ask to participate, and I didn't offer. Not out of spite, but for clarity. People who are only familiar with noise will find no place in a room meant for peace. Now I spend my mornings in a home that stands still. We occasionally argue over minor issues. Grocery list, parking places, but nobody yells. No one vanishes. When the baby kicks, she laughs as if it was a surprise. Each time. There is a closet full of hand-me-downs, so we gently declined. We created our own crib. Some nights we sit in the nursery and say nothing. Nothing hurts anymore. Silence has switched sides. It no longer indicates absence. It says enough. Told my parents I'm done after years of being overlooked. A month later they saw my name on a plaque and it left them speechless. My name is Noah, I'm 26. And there's one thing you should know about my family. They have a golden child. Noah is my younger brother by 2 years. He has been the star since we were little. He got the better room, a larger slice of cake and greater applause. I used to tell myself I was only imagining it. Maybe I was overly sensitive. Perhaps I read too much into things. However, as we grew older, it became more difficult to ignore, particularly when it came to cars. Noah crashed his first car when he was 17, while texting and driving. My parents were unhappy for a week before surprising him with a newer model, complete with a ribbon on top, as if it were a prize. Me. I saved for years to purchase my second-hand vehicle. No ribbon means no congratulations. Dad arched an eyebrow and murmured, "Don't get cocky. It's just a car." I remained silent. I'd become accustomed to drifting into the background while Noah basked in the spotlight. I studied hard, worked full-time during college, finished debt-free, and found a respectable job in finance. Meanwhile, Noah shifted his focus from one passion to another, including DJing, e-commerce, and cryptocurrency trading, all of which were supported by our parents. He termed it finding himself. I called it freeloading, but I remained silent. I felt if I kept doing my own thing, they'd ultimately recognize me for who I truly was. Then came the moment that started everything. It was a wet Thursday when my automobile died. I was driving home from work, the same route I'd taken 100 times before, when the engine sputtered and died right in the midst of the highway off-ramp. They towed it to the shop. The mechanic took one glance and informed me it wasn't worth repairing. Transmission was shot, and a few other items were on their final legs as well. I still recall standing in the garage, hearing the estimate, doing the math in my head, and realizing that I couldn't afford a new car right soon unless I spent every penny I had. That night I phoned my folks, not to beg or anything, just to talk, to tell them what happened and perhaps to see if they'd offer a modest loan to help me out temporarily. I wasn't expecting much, but I certainly didn't expect what I received. Dad sighed as I brought up the automobile. "Noah," Dad replied, as if I were a child who had broken a vase. "You're an adult now. You make your own money. Figure it out." Mom added in with her usual soothing, enabling tone. "We've done enough for you, sweetie. Maybe try budgeting better." I was struck into silence. How can you improve your budget? I hadn't gone on vacation in 3 years. I lived in a small one-bedroom apartment and brought lunch to work every day. Meanwhile, Noah was on his 3rd sabbatical of the year, tweeting selfies from Miami with captions like, "Grind never stops." Nonetheless, I said nothing. I simply thanked them, hung up, and stared at the wall for a bit. That night I rode the bus home in silence, trying not to let the storm of resentment in my chest consume me. The next day, I got myself together. I rented a cheap automobile for the short term, began exploring side hustles, and took on some freelance work after hours. It was exhausting. I didn't sleep much for weeks. But gradually, things began to shift. One of my freelance assignments led me to a financial business. I began assisting them with data analysis, then system optimization. They were more impressed than I'd ever heard my folks were. They offered me a full-time remote position with stock options and a substantial signing bonus. I said yes before they had finished speaking. From then, everything went quickly. The company took off. Our platform gained significant traction, and by the end of the second quarter, my shares were worth more than my parents had ever spent on Noah's businesses. I did not flaunt it. I still lived simply. I still ate the remainder. I still wore the same old watch. But I knew. And it felt great. 3 months after the night my automobile died, I purchased a new one. Not just any car, but a fully outfitted electric SUV with unique trim and features Noah likely had no idea existed. I did not make a post about it. Did not raise a fuss. I drove it over to my parents' house on a calm Sunday afternoon. I drove into the driveway as I had done 100 times before. However, this time the engine did not splutter or whine. It purred sleekly, quietly, and beautifully. When I stepped out, I believe my mother gasped. Dad approached the porch with an expression I couldn't decipher. And Noah virtually ran out of the garage, eyes fixed on the car like it was a spaceship. "Whose is that?" he inquired, wide-eyed. "Mine," I murmured, flinging the keys in my hand as if they were nothing. He whistled lowly. "Dang, man, that's sick. You think you could hook me up with one too?" I looked at him. I just giggled as I glanced at his fancy hoodie and the new sneakers he had bought with Dad's credit card last month. "Figure it out," I said. The words landed harder than I expected. He blinked. My father's countenance darkened and Mom tried to grin as if nothing was wrong, as if the tension was as thin as wet pavement. But I didn't stick there. I just gave them a nod and strolled into the home, as if nothing had happened. But everything had. And that's when things really started to unravel. Because they understood how well I'd done for myself. And the mask began to fall. The questioning did not take long to start. That night, Mom sent me an SMS. "We didn't know you had a new job. Why haven't you told us, sweetheart?" I disregarded it not to be impolite, but because I wanted space. I'd spent years attempting to win their respect, curiosity, and fundamental decency. And now that I was finally doing well, it seemed like bait. As soon as I responded, they would relegate me to the role of the dependable older son, the one who had to understand, forgive, and provide. A day later, Dad called. Go straight to voicemail. By midweek, I had received a message from Noah. "Bro, please let me know if you have any connections in your job. I am considering a career change into IT, hey. I almost laughed aloud. Noah, the person who criticized me for being a desk jockey, wanted in. I didn't respond. Not yet. Instead, I continued working. The startup was expanding quickly. Our product had gone viral in some financial circles. And now we're getting partnership offers from firms I used to fantasize about working with. I'd never experienced this level of momentum before. Nevertheless, with each victory, the weight of the past attempted to claw its way back. It's difficult to describe. Even after establishing myself, I could still hear my father's voice in my thoughts saying, "Don't get cocky." My parents asked me to supper approximately 2 weeks after the automobile was displayed. It's just me, not Noah. That was a red flag in itself. I considered saying no, but curiosity got the better of me. I drove up on a Saturday evening and parked the SUV slightly crooked, taking up more space than was necessary. Yes, it was a petty action, but I had earned it. Inside, everything was lovely. The table was set with Mom's fine china, which she only used on special occasions. There were even candles. It was the type of effort they generally saved for Noah's birthday. "We're so proud of you," Mom told me the moment I sat down. Dad cleared his throat and commented, "It's impressive, Noah." "Very impressive." I nodded slowly and waited for the catch. It arrived before dessert. "So," Dad began, chopping into his roast chicken, "your brother's been struggling a bit. You know how it is. The economy's tough. He had to sell his gaming setup." I remained mute. "He's thinking about starting a small project," Mom said. "Something tech-related. And we thought, well, maybe you two could team up." I set down my fork. "Team up?" I inquired. "It's just you've got the know-how, the experience. He's got ideas." I couldn't help it. I laughed. Not a loud, mocking laugh, but rather a gentle, skeptical one. "He's got ideas. He couldn't even finish a coding boot camp without rage quitting because they made him debug his own work." Mom's smile twitched. "Noah, you're serious about this?" I asked, leaning back. "You really think I should hand him a lifeline after all these years of watching you hand him everything while I was told to figure it out on my own?" Dad's expression tightened. "That's not fair." "Isn't it?" I asked, my voice rising. "When his car got totaled, he got a new one in a week. When mine died, I got a lecture. When he dropped out of college, you supported his creative path. When I got promoted, silence." Mom stared down at her lap and, for once, did not speak. I stood. "You don't get to decide. Now that I'm useful, I should share everything I worked for. You made it clear I was on my own. I just took you at your word." Dad opened his lips to say something, but I had already started toward the door. "Noah, wait!" Mom called after me, but I didn't pause. I got into my car and sat there for a minute, breathing and letting the heat wash over me. Then my phone vibrated. Another message from Noah. "Dad claimed you were overly theatrical. Just help out, man. It's not a huge deal." I stared at it. Then I typed a single word and pushed send. No. This should have been the end of it. But Noah disliked being told no, especially because he was used to the entire world bending around him. So what did he do next? That's when things became pretty ugly. After a few days of stillness, I believed they'd received the message. Perhaps I might finally have some space, serenity, and a limit. But no. Noah wasn't wired that way. Neither, evidently, were my parents. It all started with tiny things. Mutual friends texted me to ask why Noah was unhappy or why I was so cold. One even said, "He told me you promised to help him launch a startup and then bailed at the last minute. Is that true?" I felt the usual tightening in my chest, the twist of being misrepresented by someone who knows they'll never face consequences. I didn't respond to most of them, with the exception of one close friend who was familiar with the family dynamics. I informed her, "He's lying. I didn't promise anything." She simply said, "Figures. He's been talking about how you're suddenly rich. Jealousy, I guess." It did not stop there. That weekend I received a call from my bank. Someone tried to register a joint business account in my name. The branch manager reported it because the second applicant's information did not correspond to anything in my records. Guess who the second name was? Noah. He tried to launch a business in my name without notifying me, probably figuring I'd go along with it once it was established, as I always did. I was stunned, furious, embarrassed. I had to go in person to correct it, validate identity documents, and make a few changes. They couldn't accuse him since he hadn't finished the process, but the intention was clear. He was once again attempting to use my name and work to obtain an advantage. That night I approached him. I texted him first. "Meet me outside the house, not inside. I want this private." He responded with a thumbs-up emoji. We met on the curb shortly after sunset. I parked across the street and remained standing, arms folded. He walked out in flip-flops with a smug look as if this were a small mistake. "What's up?" he inquired, appearing innocent. "You really tried to open a business under my name?" I asked quietly. He blinked. "What?" "Dude, no. Just thought we could get things started and figure out the details later. You're overreacting." I stared at him. "That's fraud, Noah." "Oh, come on. It's not like I was going to steal from you or anything." He laughed, waving it off as if it were nothing. "I just thought you'd be cool with it." "You never asked," I replied. "You assumed. Because that's what you've always done. You assume the world's going to hand you a ladder even when you're standing on someone else's back." The smile faded from his lips. "You think just 'cause you made some money, you're better than everyone now," he said with anger. "No," I replied, dead calm. "I think I worked hard, and you didn't." "That's the difference," he scoffed. "You know what Mom and Dad said? They said you've changed. That the money's gone to your head." I clenched my jaw. "No, Noah. What's changed is that I stopped letting you all walk over me." He was quiet for a second before saying something that caused me to take a step back. Not in fear, but in disbelief. "Fine," he replied coldly. "You want to play the lone wolf now? Don't come crying when things crash down. You think people like you keep success forever? Wait till that startup fails and you're back to eating ramen." At the time, I had no idea that something had hardened me. Nor rage, nor grief, just assurance that this was not a misunderstanding or sibling rivalry. This was pure entitlement. I didn't respond to him. I just turned around and went back into my car. 2 days later, I received another call, this time from my father. I let it go to voicemail. I was not prepared to hear the lecture or the guilt trip. But when I finally listened the message later that night, my heart dropped. His voice was clipped, angry, not disappointed, and enraged. "Noah, we need to talk. Your mother's upset. Your brother said you threatened him, and we're not going to let you destroy this family with your ego. Call me back tonight." I looked at my phone, astonished. Has anyone threatened him? I had not even raised my voice. It struck me like a freight train. Noah was doing what he always did, playing the victim and turning the narrative upside down. But this time, he intended to weaponize it. My parents believed him, or at least wanted to, because trusting me would mean admitting they had been mistaken about him all along. That was the night I realized I needed to make a decision. I could either continue defending myself to people who didn't want to hear it, or I could do what I should have done a long time ago. Walk away totally. But before I made my final decision, I needed to make one last move. Something that would make them all stop and notice me for the first time. Not the youngster in the rear, not the ATM, not the backup plan. I didn't get much sleep that night. My mind raced with plan rather than fury, because for once, I didn't respond. I was not playing defense. I was taking charge of the story. And if they were going to characterize me as selfish, arrogant, or harsh, I might as well make it memorable. Not out of pettiness, but out of closure. First, I typed out a quick message for my parents. I listened to Dad's voicemail. I did not threaten Noah. I told him no, for once. If you want to trust his account of events, that is your decision. But I'm not going to keep justifying myself to individuals who never asked for my opinion to begin with. I am done. There is no sign-off, no emotion, simply the truth, flat and definitive. I did not expect a response, and I didn't receive one. But what happened next? That was my decision. You see, I wasn't simply doing well. The startup I joined months ago had just received a second round of funding. We were collaborating with a major financial institution, and my position had changed from contractor to executive. I led a product team. I had equity. I had access. I wasn't interested in flashy vengeance. I didn't want to share screenshots or air out dirty linen. That was not my style. But I wanted to deliver a message that could not be ignored, misconstrued, or laughed at. So, I did two things. First, I donated a large portion of my signing bonus, $15,000, to a scholarship fund at the university from where I graduated. I requested that it be named in honor of my grandfather, my father's father, the only person in our family who had ever trusted in me unconditionally. The press release cited me by name, Noah Reeve, lead product strategist at company name, and it appeared in a few business journals. Even made the local newspaper. I knew Mom would notice it. She subscribed to the Sunday edition. I envisioned her sitting at the kitchen table, coffee in hand, glancing through the story, blinking at my photograph, and wondering why I hadn't notified her. Then I called the dealership. I had been considering getting a second car, not for me or anyone else. See, there was one individual in my family who always treated me like I was important. My Aunt Renee, my father's younger sister. She had never married, lived modestly, and taught high school for more than 30 years. Every year she gave me books rather than gift cards. When I received my first internship, she wrote me a handmade card expressing her pride. She never made a huge fuss, but she always made me feel important. She drove a dilapidated, old Corolla with about 200,000 miles on it, so I purchased her a new hybrid model that was improved, clean, safe. When I arrived at her apartment and handed her the keys, she simply stared at me in disbelief. "I don't need a car like this, Noah," she said softly. "You deserve one," I replied. No strings attached. She shed tears, hugged me more tightly than anyone had in years. She didn't talk about it online. I didn't brag to my relatives. She drove it home and mailed me a thank you message in old-school, gorgeous cursive. It's still inside my refrigerator. That was all the closure I needed. Not the SUV, not the stock options. However, life has a way of bringing things full circle. A month later, I received a call from my cousin Sophie, Aunt Renee's daughter. She told me the news. My parents were invited to a local charity gala hosted by the university. They had no idea I was being honored that night. Sophie did. She was there too. She said that when my name was called, and the presenter mentioned the scholarship I had funded, my mother gasped aloud. My father just froze. "They looked like someone had punched them in the chest," Sophie said, laughing softly. "It was kind of beautiful." I didn't attend the event myself. I had a prior commitment. However, a photograph of the plaque quickly circulated within family circles. What's the kicker? In the same paragraph, the article mentioned Aunt Renee as the recipient of a vehicle donation. Some keen-eyed relatives made the connection. That's when the real fallout began. My inbox started to fill up with messages from cousins I hadn't heard from in years, an email from my uncle stating that he has always admired my work ethic. Grandma's voicemail was short, uncertain, but heartfelt. "I'm proud of you, sweetheart. I just wanted you to know that." What about my parents? The radio is silent. Until one day a large envelope arrived by mail. I have no return address, only my name. Inside was a handwritten note from Dad. The handwriting was tight and slightly unsteady. I unfurled it, my pulse thudding, unsure if I was prepared for whatever guilt trip or lecture he wanted to deliver. But it was not that. It began with, "I suppose it's easier to write things I could never say out loud." What followed was 3 pages of something I never expected to see: accountability. He acknowledged having double standards, constantly giving Noah more, and expecting me to just cope with it. He wrote about how he felt he was teaching me strength and independence, but he now realizes he was simply withholding the love and support that every child deserves. He wrote that he saw the photo in the newspaper, that he had no idea what I'd been creating. Seeing the name Reeve in the headline made him realize how little he understood about the guy I'd grown into. Then he wrote something that left me speechless. "You don't owe us anything, least of all forgiveness. But I want you to know I was wrong about you. About everything." He did not beg. He did not beg for money. He has just confessed. I sat on the floor, read it twice or three times, and then cried. Not because I sought vengeance. Not because I felt proud. Because for the first time in my life, I felt noticed by the man who had spent years staring straight through me. In the weeks that followed, I did not rush to make a call. I needed time. Still do. But I saved the letter. I responded with a shorter, simpler message. I told him I appreciated his candor. I was unsure about what the future held, but I was willing to start a new chapter in which the focus was on respect rather than handouts or hierarchy. What about Noah, though? He did not alter. Last I heard, he tried to start a podcast with two of his pals. It fizzled out within a month. Then he uploaded a snapshot of a sports automobile to Instagram with the message, "Manifesting this." I grinned upon seeing it, because I didn't have to clap back. I did not need to explain. I'd already accomplished what he never could.